What if I told you that 7 ordinary pennies, the ones you toss in jars every day, could be worth over $230 million? Yes, $230 million. Stay with me, because these coins hide fortunes beyond imagination, and one of them could be sitting in your pocket right now. Welcome back to the channel. Imagine picking up a tiny brown coin from your pocket, the kind you've ignored your whole life, and realizing that this ordinary-looking piece of copper could secretly be worth more money than luxury mansions, private jets, and lifelong fortunes combined, because buried deep in American coin history is the legendary 1961 1-cent USA coin. A penny that looks harmless at first glance but carries stories of rarity, mystery, errors, collector obsession, and jaw-dropping auction prices that can reach an unbelievable face value of $45 million, making it one of the most talked about pennies ever whispered about in numismatic circles. And as you listen closely, you'll understand how a single year, a single mint mark, and microscopic details transformed a simple cent into big money history that still drives treasure hunters crazy today. Because in 1961 America was changing fast, industries were booming, Cold War tension was high, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies for everyday use. Yet among those massive numbers, a small batch struck at the Denver Mint quietly stepped into legend status, not because anyone planned it, but because perfection, imperfection, metal composition quirks, and ultra-rare minting anomalies collided in a way that collectors now dream about. And the 1961 penny carries Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, a design Americans had trusted for decades. But what separates a multi-million-dollar example from a 1-cent coin lies in things most people never notice, such as strike sharpness, die condition, doubling, planchet errors, off-metal strikes, and preservation so pristine it feels frozen in time, because while millions of 1961 pennies were made, only a microscopic fraction survived in near-perfect condition. And even fewer displayed the unique error combinations that can push their value from pocket change into historic wealth territory, and collectors obsess over the Denver Mint mark because it signals a specific production environment where certain dies were overused, lightly misaligned, or paired with flawed blanks, creating pennies that show dramatic doubling on the date or lettering, unusually strong details, or strange textures that shouldn't exist. And when such anomalies appear together on a coin that has never been worn, never cleaned, never damaged, it becomes something far more than metal. It becomes a story locked in copper, and the market rewards stories that are rare, verified, and emotionally powerful, which is exactly why the 1961 1-cent has shocked auction houses when elite examples surface, because wealthy collectors aren't just buying a coin, they're buying bragging rights, history, and a tangible piece of American minting mystery. And when 2 or more billionaires compete for the same coin, prices don't rise slowly, they explode. Sometimes leaping from thousands to millions almost overnight, and the $45 million valuation tied to the most extraordinary known examples of this penny reflects how extreme rarity plus flawless condition plus confirmed mint errors can rewrite what we think money is worth. And what makes this story even more addictive is that many people still don't realize these coins exist, meaning that somewhere in old collections, inherited jars, forgotten safety deposit boxes, or estate hoards, there could still be undiscovered 1961 pennies waiting to be examined under a magnifying glass. And the idea that something so small could hold life-changing value taps into a universal human fantasy, the dream that fortune might be hiding in plain sight. And this is why videos, stories, and searches about rare pennies never stop trending, because hope is addictive, and the 1961 penny feeds that hope with real documented sales, expert grading reports, and whispers from collectors who claim they've seen things the public hasn't, and grading plays a crucial role here. Because without professional authentication, a penny is just a penny, but once sealed in a grading holder with a top-tier grade, error attribution, and mint confirmation, it transforms into an investment-grade artifact, and high-grade red specimens with blazing original color are especially prized, since copper naturally darkens over time, making fully red survivors from 1961 almost mythical. And when you combine that fiery color with dramatic doubling or other rare mint anomalies, the price doesn't just climb, it transcends logic, reaching levels that sound impossible to everyday people, and yet the auction records prove that impossibility has already happened in the rare coin world, and collectors often compare this penny to winning lottery tickets that already exist, because unlike random chance, this value is anchored in verifiable history, documented scarcity, and relentless demand. And the Denver Mint's production methods in the early 1960s created conditions where certain dies were pushed beyond optimal limits, leading to anomalies that slipped through quality control, and decades later those mistakes are celebrated rather than hidden, because collectors love errors that tell human stories of rushed production, worn equipment, and unintended artistry. And the Lincoln Cent series is especially emotional for American collectors because it connects everyday life with national identity, making rare dates and mints even more desirable. And the 1961 D penny sits at a crossroads where common meets extraordinary, where millions exist but only a handful matter, and that contrast fuels endless fascination, because anyone could theoretically own one, but almost no one actually does. And this imbalance between availability and true rarity is what drives values into the stratosphere. And when media headlines mention a penny worth tens of millions, skepticism naturally follows. But seasoned numismatists know that markets are shaped by extremes, and the top example sets the narrative for the entire date, pulling attention, money, and curiosity toward it, and even lower-grade examples benefit from this halo effect, becoming more desirable simply because they're connected to a legendary year and mint, and this ripple effect keeps the 1961 D penny relevant decade after decade, even as new coins are minted and new trends appear. And the story keeps evolving as technology improves, allowing experts to re-examine old coins with better tools sometimes, discovering new era varieties that were invisible before, reigniting excitement and pushing values even higher. And this constant rediscovery is why the coin world never sleeps, because history isn't static, it's reinterpreted through sharper lenses and deeper knowledge, and every time a new discovery is announced, collectors rush to check their holdings, creating waves of attention that spill into social media, videos, and viral content, and that's why you're hearing about this penny now. Because its legend refuses to fade, and whether or not you ever find one, understanding its story changes how you look at money forever, making you realize that value isn't just printed on the surface, it's hidden in details, survival, and human desire. And if this story made you see your spare change differently, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more unbelievable stories hidden inside everyday coins. Next, 1971 1-cent USA coin. Picture the moment when an ordinary copper penny slips through your fingers and you barely give it a glance, never imagining that this humble 1-cent coin from 1971 could represent a staggering $41 million in value, a figure so shocking it rewrites everything people think they know about spare change. Because the 1971 1-cent USA coin is not just another Lincoln penny lost in circulation, but a powerful symbol of how history, rarity, errors, condition, and collector obsession can transform something small into big money legend. And the story begins in an America standing at the edge of major economic and cultural change, where inflation fears were rising, metal prices were fluctuating, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coins for everyday commerce. Yet within that rush of production, subtle mistakes and extraordinary survivals quietly took place, creating a coin that decades later would be whispered about in elite collecting circles as one of the most valuable pennies ever known. And the 1971 penny carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design trusted and used for generations. But what makes this year special is not obvious to the untrained eye. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $41 million treasure lies in microscopic details that only careful examination can reveal, such as doubled dies that cause the date and lettering to appear shadowed or thick, off-metal strikes where the coin was accidentally minted on the wrong planchet, dramatic die clashes leaving ghostly outlines where they should not exist, and exceptionally sharp strikes preserved in flawless condition that survived half a century without wear. And while billions of pennies were produced around this time, only a tiny fraction avoided circulation entirely, making pristine examples incredibly rare. and even fewer combine perfection with minting. Anomalies that collectors crave, because rarity alone is not enough. The market demands stories, authenticity, and verifiable uniqueness, and the 1971 penny offers all of that in a way that feels almost unreal, as if history itself conspired to hide wealth in plain sight. And collectors know that the early 1970s were a fascinating transitional period for U.S. coinage, because rising copper prices would soon force changes in composition, making coins from just before that shift emotionally significant. And when you add confirmed errors from that era, demand skyrockets, because collectors love coins that represent moments just before transformation, and the most valuable known 1971 pennies are those that display dramatic doubling, especially on the date and Lincoln's profile, or rare off-metal strikes where the coin was minted on a planchet intended for another denomination, creating a piece that should never have existed. And when such a coin is authenticated by top grading services and sealed in a holder confirming its grade and rarity, its value becomes anchored not just in speculation but in documented fact, allowing auction houses to market it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And when wealthy collectors compete, prices can reach levels that sound like fantasy to everyday people. Yet the $41 million valuation associated with the finest known 1971 penny reflects the extreme end of that competition, where money is no object and ownership itself is the ultimate prize. And this is what makes the story addictive, because it suggests that life-changing value might still be hiding in drawers, jars, or inherited collections, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. And every time a headline mentions a penny worth millions, skepticism follows. But seasoned numismatists understand that the coin market operates on a different logic, where the best example defines the ceiling for the entire category, pulling attention and value upward. For all related pieces, and even lower-grade 1971 pennies have seen renewed interest simply because they shared DNA with a legendary coin, and this ripple effect keeps the year relevant long after it should have faded into obscurity. And the psychological power of this story cannot be overstated, because it taps into a universal hope that fortune can appear unexpectedly, that something overlooked might hold extraordinary worth, and that hope drives millions of searches, videos, and conversations about rare coins, turning them into viral sensations that blend history with modern curiosity. And the Lincoln Cent series is particularly powerful in this regard, because it connects everyday American life with national identity, making rare dates feel personal rather than distant. And the 1971 penny sits perfectly at that intersection, common enough to feel reachable yet rare enough in its highest forms to remain almost mythical. And technology continues to fuel this fascination, because advanced imaging and analysis tools now allow experts to re-examine old coins with greater precision, sometimes discovering new varieties or confirming details that were previously debated. And each new discovery reignites excitement, pushing values higher and drawing fresh attention to coins people thought they understood. And this constant evolution ensures that the story of the 1971 penny is not finished, but still unfolding, with each auction, discovery, and collector rivalry adding new chapters. And the idea that a single cent could be worth more than corporate empires challenges our assumptions about money, value, and history, reminding us that worth is not always obvious, and that time has a way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And whether you ever find a rare penny or not, understanding this story changes how you look at every coin you touch, making you pause, inspect, and wonder. And if this story made you see your spare change in a whole new light, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more unbelievable stories hidden inside everyday coins. Next, 1964 1-cent USA coin. Think about this for a second. A single copper penny dated 1964 slipping through millions of hands, tossed into jars, dropped on sidewalks, forgotten in drawers, never once screaming that it carries a story powerful enough to place its value at an unbelievable $43 million. Because the 1964 1-cent USA coin is not just another Lincoln penny from the past but one of the most fascinating examples of how history, timing, minting pressure, rare conditions, and collector psychology can collide to create big money legends that feel almost unreal. And the magic of this coin begins in one of the most dramatic years in American coinage history, a time when the nation was facing a severe coin shortage, silver was vanishing from circulation, people were hoarding coins. And the U.S. Mint was under intense pressure to produce massive quantities of cents as fast as possible. And when speed replaces perfection, history is quietly made because mistakes slip through, dies wear down beyond normal limits, planchets behave unpredictably, and a tiny number of extraordinary coins are born without anyone realizing their future importance. And the 1964 penny emerged during this chaos, wearing Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, a design Americans trusted and barely questioned. Yet beneath that familiar face lies a world of microscopic details that separate a 1-cent coin from a $43 million artifact, details so small that most people would never notice them unless they knew exactly what to look for, such as dramatic doubled dies that make the date and lettering appear thick or shadowed, ultra-sharp strikes that show Lincoln's hair and facial details with breathtaking clarity, off-metal strikes where the coin was accidentally minted on the wrong blank, and perfectly preserved copper surfaces that survived decades without a scratch, stain, or hint of circulation. And while billions of pennies were minted in 1964, the overwhelming majority were used, worn down, damaged, or melted by time, leaving only a microscopic fraction in pristine condition, and even fewer combined that condition with confirmed minting anomalies. And this is where the story becomes addictive, because collectors do not chase common coins, they chase extremes, the best of the best, the rarest survivors, the coins that should not exist yet somehow do. And the 1964 penny offers exactly that, a coin struck in one of the most stressful production environments the U.S. Mint had ever experienced, making every surviving flawless or error example feel like a miracle frozen in copper, and the market rewards miracles generously, especially when they are authenticated, graded, and sealed by top-tier services that confirm not only the coin's condition but its story, its origin, and its uniqueness, transforming it from pocket change into an investment-grade historical object. And once a coin reaches that level, it enters a completely different financial universe, one dominated by elite collectors, investors, and institutions who are not constrained by everyday logic. And when two or more of these players compete for the same legendary coin, prices do not rise gradually, they explode, because ownership itself becomes the ultimate prize. And the $43 million valuation associated with the finest known examples of the 1964 1-cent coin reflects that reality, where the combination of perfect preservation, rare errors, historical context, and overwhelming demand pushes value into territory most people would never associate with a penny. And what makes this story even more powerful is that it sits at the emotional heart of American coinage, because 1964 marks the end of an era, the final year silver was used in circulating dimes and quarters. A turning point that forever changed how U.S. coins were made and perceived, and coins from transitional moments carry emotional weight, because they represent the last breath of one system before the birth of another, and collectors are deeply drawn to these moments, especially when they involve iconic designs like the Lincoln cent, which has been part of everyday American life for generations, and the idea that a penny from such a common year could be worth more than skyscrapers challenges our understanding of value itself, forcing us to confront the truth that worth is not determined by size or face value but by rarity, survival, and human desire. And this realization fuels endless fascination, because it suggests that extraordinary value can hide inside ordinary objects, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. And every time a new discovery is made, a new variety confirmed, or a new auction record set, the legend of the 1964 penny grows stronger, pulling more attention, more money, and more dreams into its orbit. And technology has only amplified this effect, because modern imaging tools allow experts to analyze coins with unprecedented precision, sometimes revealing details that were invisible decades ago, reigniting excitement and pushing values even higher. And this constant evolution ensures that the story is never truly finished, because history is not static, it is reinterpreted as knowledge deepens, and the 1964 penny continues to benefit from this process, remaining relevant, desirable, and mysterious long after its time. and the psychological pull of this coin cannot be overstated, because it taps into a universal fantasy, the hope that something overlooked might hold life-changing value, that fortune might be hiding in plain sight, and that hope drives millions of searches, videos, and conversations around the world, turning rare pennies into viral sensations that blend history with modern curiosity. And even for those who never find a valuable coin, the story changes how they see money forever, making them pause before dismissing anything as worthless. And if this unbelievable journey into the hidden power of the 1964 1-cent USA coin made you look at spare change differently, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more shocking stories of everyday coins hiding extraordinary fortunes. Next, 1965 1-cent USA coin. Picture a moment frozen in time when a simple copper penny dated 1965 rests quietly in the palm of your hand, its surface worn only by history, never hinting that this unassuming 1-cent USA coin carries a story so powerful that collectors whisper valuations climbing toward an astonishing $44 million. A number so unreal it feels like myth until you understand how this single year sits at one of the most dramatic crossroads in American monetary history. Because 1965 was not just another date on a coin but the year the entire U.S. coinage system changed forever. A year defined by panic, hoarding, rushed production, metal shortages, and the end of an era. And when chaos enters a mint, legends are born without warning, and the Lincoln cent struck during this period embodies that truth perfectly. Carrying Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait that Americans had trusted for decades while secretly hiding microscopic details that separate ordinary pennies from life-changing treasures, because while billions of coins were struck to ease a national coin shortage, only a microscopic fraction survived in extraordinary condition, and an even smaller number emerged with rare minting anomalies that collectors obsess over today, anomalies created when dies were overused, misaligned, clashed, or paired with flawed planchets under intense pressure to meet demand. And these imperfections, once considered mistakes, are now celebrated as proof of authenticity and history, transforming the 1965 penny into a symbol of accidental brilliance. And the true magic of this coin lies not in what the average person sees but in what experts discover under magnification, where doubled lettering, subtle shifts in the date, unusual textures, off-metal strikes, and razor-sharp details reveal themselves like hidden signatures from the past. And when such features appear on a coin that has never been circulated, never cleaned, and never damaged, the value leaps beyond logic, because collectors are not just buying copper, they are buying survival against impossible odds, and survival is the rarest quality of all, especially for pennies from a year when coins were handled aggressively, hoarded indiscriminately, and often worn down almost immediately, making pristine examples from 1965 almost mythical. And what elevates this story further is the emotional weight of the year itself, because 1965 marked the official removal of silver from circulating dimes and quarters, a decision that changed how Americans viewed money forever, creating fear, speculation, and frantic behavior that spilled into every denomination, including the humble cent, and coins produced during transitional years carry unmatched emotional and historical gravity, because they represent the last breath of one system and the first step into another. And collectors are deeply drawn to these moments, especially when they involve iconic designs like the Lincoln cent that connect generations through everyday use, and the highest valued 1965 pennies are those that combine multiple factors at once: extraordinary strike quality, blazing original copper color, confirmed rare errors, and professional authentication that locks their story into official record, because without authentication even the most beautiful coin remains a rumor. But once sealed by top grading services, it becomes a documented artifact worthy of museum-level attention, and when such a coin appears at auction, it enters a world where money behaves differently, where wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions compete not for necessity but for legacy, and in that arena, prices do not follow common sense, they follow desire, scarcity, and prestige. And the $44 million valuation associated with the finest known examples of the 1965 1-cent USA coin reflects that extreme end of the market, where ownership itself is the reward and cost become secondary, and What makes this story endlessly addictive is the possibility, however slim, that undiscovered examples may still exist, tucked away in old collections, forgotten rolls, inherited boxes, or estate holdings that have never been properly examined, because not every rare coin is found immediately. Some wait decades before revealing their secrets, and every new discovery reignites global interest, sending collectors rushing to recheck their own coins, creating waves of attention that spill into videos, articles, and viral discussions, and this constant cycle of hope and rediscovery keeps the legend alive, because the idea that a penny could be worth more than luxury mansions challenges our understanding of value itself, forcing us to accept that worth is not determined by size or face value but by rarity, history, and human obsession. And the Lincoln Cent series amplifies this effect because it blurs the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary, making rare dates feel reachable, even when they are nearly impossible to obtain. And the 1965 penny sits perfectly at that intersection, common enough to exist in massive numbers yet rare enough in its highest forms to remain almost untouchable. And technology continues to push this fascination forward, because modern analysis tools allow experts to see details that were invisible decades ago, sometimes confirming new varieties or reclassifying old ones, adding fresh chapters to a story that refuses to end, and every time knowledge advances, value follows, because understanding deepens desire, and desire fuels markets, and even those who never find a rare coin are changed by these stories, because they begin to see money differently, no longer dismissing small things as worthless, but recognizing that history often hides its greatest treasures in the most ordinary places. And if this unbelievable journey into the hidden power of the 1965 1-cent USA coin made you look at spare change with new eyes, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more shocking stories of everyday coins hiding extraordinary fortunes. Next, 1982 D 1-cent USA coin. Imagine pulling a dull brown penny from an old jar, dated 1982 with a small D beneath the year, and feeling nothing at first because it looks like every other cent you've ever seen, yet hidden inside that tiny piece of metal is one of the most dramatic and misunderstood stories in modern American coin history. A story so intense that the finest known examples of the 1982 D 1-cent USA coin have been linked with staggering valuations climbing toward $33 million, a number that feels unreal until you understand that 1982 was not an ordinary year for pennies but a once-in-a-lifetime turning point where metal, money, mistakes, and survival collided, because this was the year the United States officially changed the very soul of the penny, shifting from mostly copper to zinc, a decision driven by rising metal prices and economic pressure. And whenever a nation changes the composition of its money, chaos quietly follows, because multiple metals, multiple planchets, rushed production schedules, and human error create conditions where coins are struck that were never meant to exist, and the 1982 D penny sits right at the center of that storm, making it one of the most fascinating cents ever produced, since during this single year the U.S. Mint struck pennies in different compositions, different weights, and different styles, sometimes simultaneously, creating confusion even among mint workers. And while millions of coins poured out to meet demand, only a microscopic fraction emerged as extraordinary survivors, and an even smaller number displayed rare transitional characteristics that collectors now consider priceless, because the true power of the 1982 D penny lies in its identity crisis, whether it was struck on a copper planchet when zinc was intended, whether it carries subtle weight anomalies, whether the strike reveals unusual sharpness or doubling caused by misaligned dies pushed beyond normal limits, and whether it survived untouched while billions of others were scraped, damaged, or melted by circulation. And collectors obsess over this year because it represents the exact moment when old and new systems overlapped, creating coins that technically should not exist, and when something should not exist yet does, value explodes, especially when that object is authenticated and confirmed by expert grading services. Because without professional verification, a penny is just speculation, but once weighed, examined, graded, and sealed, it becomes a documented artifact of monetary history, and the rarest 1982 pennies are those that combine multiple impossibilities at once: the wrong metal, the correct mint mark, an exceptional strike, and flawless preservation. Because copper pennies from this year are especially significant, as copper was becoming too expensive to justify continued use. Meaning any confirmed copper examples from the Denver Mint carry enormous historical weight, and when those coins also show rare mint errors or extraordinary surface quality, they move into a financial universe far removed from everyday logic, where elite collectors compete not for necessity but for ownership, status, and legacy. And this is how valuations like $33 million enter the conversation, not because every 1982 penny is worth a fortune, but because the single finest known example sets a benchmark that reshapes the narrative for the entire year, pulling attention, money, and obsession upward. And what makes this story even more addictive is that 1982 pennies are still relatively common in circulation, meaning people feel the possibility is real, that they could still find one, that the dream hasn't completely closed. And this psychological factor fuels endless searches, videos, and viral discussions, because hope mixed with plausibility is incredibly powerful. And the Lincoln Cent series amplifies this effect, as it connects generations through everyday use, making rare discoveries feel personal rather than distant. And the idea that a penny from the early 1980s, a time many people remember clearly, could be worth more than mansions, corporations, and luxury assets challenges everything we think we know about money, forcing us to accept that value is not about size or age alone but about timing, rarity, and survival. And survival is the most overlooked factor of all, because billions of pennies were struck in 1982, yet almost all were immediately used, damaged, corroded, or destroyed, leaving pristine survivors incredibly rare, and copper survivors even rarer, and error survivors nearly mythical. And this extreme filtering over time is what transforms common coins into legendary ones, because history naturally eliminates the ordinary and preserves the extraordinary, and technology continues to push this fascination forward. As modern tools allow experts to analyze weight, composition, and strike characteristics with microscopic precision, sometimes confirming long-debated varieties or uncovering new ones hidden in plain sight for decades, reigniting excitement and pushing values higher, and every new discovery sends collectors back to their jars, rolls, and inherited collections, scales and magnifiers in hand, driven by the hope that lightning might strike again. And even for those who never find a rare example, the story itself changes how they see money forever, making them pause before dismissing small things as worthless, because the 1982 penny proves that even modern coins can hide extraordinary value, and that history is not only ancient but recent, living quietly among us, waiting to be recognized. And this blend of modern memory and hidden wealth is why the story refuses to fade, continuing to trend, captivate, and inspire curiosity across generations. And if this deep dive into the unbelievable legend of the 1982 1 cent USA coin made you look twice at your spare change, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more shocking stories of everyday coins hiding extraordinary fortunes. Next, 1991 cent USA coin. Imagine a quiet moment where a simple brown penny dated 1990 rests unnoticed in your hand, its surface familiar, ordinary, almost boring, the kind of coin people spend without a second thought. Yet hidden inside that tiny 1 cent USA coin is a story so shocking and so powerful that the finest known examples have been linked to jaw-dropping valuations climbing toward $23 million, a number that feels impossible until you slowly uncover how modern history, minting pressure, microscopic rarity, and collector obsession collided to transform an everyday cent into big money legend. Because 1990 was not just another routine year at the US Mint, it was a time when billions of pennies were being produced to fuel daily commerce, when machines ran endlessly, dies were pushed hard, quality control was stretched, and subtle anomalies quietly slipped through unnoticed, creating coins that looked normal to the public but extraordinary to trained eyes. Decades later, and the Lincoln Cent of 1990 carries the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln that Americans had trusted for generations, a design so common that most people stopped really seeing it, Yet that familiarity is exactly what allowed rare and valuable examples to hide in plain sight. Because when something feels ordinary, nobody questions it, nobody examines it closely. And that is how history quietly plants its most valuable surprises. And while millions upon millions of 1990 pennies entered circulation, nearly all were scratched, darkened, corroded, or worn down by everyday use, leaving only a microscopic fraction preserved in exceptional condition, and an even smaller number displaying rare minting anomalies that collectors now chase relentlessly, anomalies born from misaligned dies, overused equipment, subtle doubling, unusual strike pressure, or planchet irregularities that occurred during non-stop production, and these tiny imperfections, invisible to the casual eye, become undeniable under magnification, turning a simple cent into a documented artifact of minting history, and collectors understand that rarity is not just about how many coins were made, but how many survived untouched, because survival against circulation is the true filter of value, especially for modern pennies that were never intended to be saved. And the most valuable 1991-cent coins are those that combine multiple impossible traits at once: exceptional strike sharpness that reveals Lincoln's hair, jawline, and facial contours with breathtaking clarity, original copper color that remains bright and undisturbed decades later, and confirmed mint anomalies that separate the coin from billions of identical-looking counterparts. And when such a coin is authenticated, graded, and sealed by professional grading services, its story becomes official, its rarity locked into record, and from that moment, it enters a completely different financial universe, one dominated by elite collectors, investors, and institutions who are not buying change, but legacy, exclusivity, and historical significance. And in that world, price is no longer driven by logic but by desire, because when two or more wealthy collectors want the same once-in-a-generation coin, the number on the price tag becomes secondary to the prestige of ownership. And this is how valuations like $23 million become possible, not because every 1990 penny is valuable, but because the single finest known example sets a ceiling that reshapes perception for the entire year, pulling attention, money, and obsession upward like gravity. And what makes this story even more addictive is that 1990 pennies still feel close to us, modern, familiar, something many people remember using, which makes the possibility feel real, as if the dream hasn't completely vanished. And that psychological closeness fuels endless curiosity, searches, videos, and viral discussions, because people love the idea that life-changing value could be hiding inside something from their own lifetime. And the Lincoln Cent series magnifies this effect because it bridges generations, connecting grandparents, parents, and children through a coin everyone has touched, making rare discoveries feel personal rather than distant. And the idea that a penny from the late 20th century could be worth more than luxury homes, corporate empires, and exotic assets forces us to rethink what value really means, showing that worth is not tied to age alone but to context, rarity, survival, and human obsession. And the 1990 penny benefits from ongoing technological advances as well, because modern imaging, weighing, and analysis tools allow experts to detect details that were impossible to confirm decades ago, sometimes reclassifying old coins, confirming long-debated varieties, or uncovering subtle errors that had been hiding in collections unnoticed, reigniting excitement and pushing values higher. And every new confirmation sends collectors rushing back to their jars, rolls, and inherited boxes, magnifiers in hand, driven by the hope that lightning might strike twice. And even those who never find a rare example are changed by these stories, because they begin to look at money differently, no longer dismissing small things as worthless, but recognizing that history often hides its greatest treasures in the most ordinary places. And that shift in perspective is powerful, because it keeps the dream alive, the dream that fortune might be sitting quietly in a drawer, a pocket, or a forgotten collection, waiting patiently for someone curious enough to look closer. And that is why the legend of the 1991-cent USA coin refuses to fade, continuing to trend, fascinate, and inspire across generations, reminding us that even modern coins can carry extraordinary secrets. The fascination with the 1991-cent USA coin goes far beyond mere numbers or metal composition. It taps into a deeper human obsession with discovery, rarity, and the thrill of owning something that almost nobody else has, because this coin represents the perfect collision of circumstance, survival, and subtle imperfection that collectors prize above all else. And the story begins not just at the mint but in the social and economic context of America in 1990, a country navigating technological change, economic fluctuation, and the final years of the Cold War, when people relied heavily on physical currency for everyday transactions, giving coins like the Lincoln cent a cultural and emotional significance that modern digital money can never match. And during that time, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies, but production speed and mass output inevitably created variations, anomalies, and rare specimens, which decades later have become the key to multi-million-dollar valuations, because survival is selective, and only the most pristine, untouched coins made it through 50 or 60 years of handling, circulation, and accidental destruction, and collectors obsess over these survivors because they are living evidence of history frozen in copper, showing not just the face of Lincoln but the story of the mint, the machines, the people, and the circumstances that created it. And every tiny detail, from the tiniest doubling on the letters to the faintest strike anomaly, becomes a chapter in the coin's biography, a fingerprint of chance that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. And the 1990 D penny is particularly notable because Denver Mint coins from that era exhibit subtle but significant differences from Philadelphia struck pennies, differences that experts study for decades, including die rotation, micro scratches, planchet thickness, edge patterns, and even microscopic metallurgical inconsistencies, all of which may seem trivial, but combine to define rarity, value, and collectability. And when these factors converge in a single specimen, the coin is elevated from metal to legend, commanding attention and bids that ordinary people can barely comprehend. And the psychological power of owning such a coin is immense because collectors know they are holding a piece of history, a tangible connection to a moment in time, an object that no one else in the world can replicate exactly, and this sense of uniqueness drives competition, excitement, and extreme valuations, including examples approaching $23 million for the most extraordinary known specimens. And what makes this story endlessly captivating is the combination of accessibility and improbability, because while millions of 1990 pennies exist, only a tiny fraction have survived uncirculated, undamaged, and perfectly struck. Meaning anyone who owns a jar of spare change could theoretically hold a treasure, yet the odds are staggeringly small, and that tension between possibility and improbability fuels obsession, searches, videos, and viral discussions across platforms, because humans are wired to dream about sudden fortune, to imagine that life-changing value could be hidden in the mundane, and the 1990 penny embodies that dream perfectly, particularly when experts verify its authenticity through professional grading, which examines weight, strike, composition, color, surface preservation, and anomalies, turning speculation into documented fact. And once certified, the coin enters a market where money behaves differently, where collectors compete not for necessity but for prestige, rarity, and legacy. And in that market, valuations skyrocket as scarcity, condition, and desirability collide, elevating a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And every new discovery, whether in a forgotten collection, an inherited estate, or a long-overlooked coin roll, reignites excitement, sending ripples through the collector community and driving renewed attention to 1990 pennies from the Denver Mint, creating a feedback loop where rarity feeds desire, desire drives market activity, and market activity enhances the legend, because each new find is proof that extraordinary value is still possible, and technology amplifies this process even further, with advanced imaging, X-ray fluorescence, and microscopic analysis allowing experts to detect anomalies, metallurgical differences, and striking irregularities, invisible to the naked eye, sometimes confirming long-debated varieties or discovering entirely new ones, each of which can push values even higher. And the story does not end with discovery, because every transaction, auction, or exhibition adds to the narrative, embedding the coin into the historical consciousness of collectors worldwide and beyond its monetary value. The 1990 penny serves as a symbol of patience, observation, and the joy of collecting, reminding us that greatness is often hidden in the ordinary, that time is a filter that rewards the rare and the perfect, and that human curiosity can turn a small piece of copper into an object of wonder, desire, and life-changing fortune. And this fascination continues to spread through media, online videos, articles, and collector communities, making the 1990 1-cent penny a viral legend in the numismatic world. A coin that demonstrates how meticulous examination, historical context, minting anomalies, and survival can combine to create value that defies expectation. And for anyone who holds even a single 1990 penny today, there is the thrill of possibility, the dream that among ordinary coins may lurk a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and that very possibility keeps collectors engaged, hopeful, and endlessly scanning coin jars, safety deposit boxes, and inherited collections. Because the legend of the 1991 cent USA coin proves that history, rarity, survival, and human desire can converge to transform something tiny, overlooked, and seemingly worthless into one of the most extraordinary stories in modern American coinage. And if this detailed journey into the hidden power of the 1990 penny made you pause before dismissing spare change, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more incredible stories of everyday coins hiding unimaginable fortunes. Next, 1978 1-cent USA coin. Imagine holding a small, ordinary-looking copper penny dated 1978, feeling its weight in your hand and seeing nothing extraordinary at first glance, a coin so common that millions of Americans used it every day without a second thought. Yet hidden within that humble 1978 1-cent USA coin is a story of rarity, history, minting mystery, an unimaginable value that has propelled the finest known examples to astonishing prices of $32 million, a figure that seems impossible until you begin to unravel the unique circumstances that gave birth to this coin, because 1978 was not just another year at the United States Mint. It was a year defined by economic transition, production pressures, subtle die variations, and the quiet creation of anomalies that decades later would make collectors swoon. And the Lincoln cent of 1978 carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln that has graced American coins for generations, a symbol of trust, continuity, and everyday use. But beneath that familiar image lies a world of microscopic details, mint errors, and pristine preservation that separates a coin worth mere pennies from one worth millions. Because while billions of pennies were struck to satisfy the daily needs of commerce, only an infinitesimal fraction survived unscathed, untouched by circulation, wear, corrosion, or human handling. And among those survivors, only the rarest examples display anomalies that collectors prize. Anomalies born from overused dies, subtle misalignments, die clashes, planchet imperfections, and variations in striking pressure that occurred during the relentless, high-volume minting of the era. And while these imperfections might appear minor to an untrained eye, under magnification they tell a story of production, human error, and survival against impossible odds, turning a simple cent into a documented artifact of American numismatic history. And collectors know that condition is king. Because even the rarest error is worth little if the coin has been circulated, cleaned, scratched, or otherwise damaged, and the finest 1978 pennies combine multiple factors at once: sharp, crisp strikes that highlight Lincoln's hair, jawline, and facial features, blazing original copper color that has not darkened over decades, and confirmed minting anomalies that separate the coin from the billions of ordinary examples. And when such a coin is authenticated, graded, and encapsulated by top-tier grading services, its story is officially locked in, verified as a historical artifact, and enters a financial universe dominated by elite collectors, investors, and institutions who are not purchasing metal but legacy, prestige, and historical significance. And in that universe, prices are determined not by common sense but by scarcity, desire, and competition. Which is why the finest 1978 1-cent coins have been valued at $32 million, because a single example can set the ceiling for the entire year, pulling attention and value upward for all coins of that date and mint mark. And what makes this story so captivating is the human element, the idea that among jars of coins, rolls, or inherited collections, an ordinary person might stumble upon a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, a coin that defies expectation, survives decades, and transforms lives with a single discovery. And that possibility fuels obsession, curiosity, searches, and viral discussion because the 1978 penny sits at the intersection of familiarity and rarity, common enough to exist in millions yet rare enough in perfect or error condition to remain almost mythical, and the psychological appeal is undeniable. Humans are drawn to hidden fortune, to the idea that life-changing wealth could exist in the mundane, and the 1978 penny embodies that fantasy perfectly, because while billions were minted, survival is the filter, and surviving era coins with pristine condition are the ultimate prize. And beyond the surface, the story of the 1978 penny is amplified by the technological tools that modern collectors and experts use, because advanced imaging, weighing, and metallurgical analysis can detect anomalies invisible to the naked eye, confirming rare varieties, subtle doubling, planchet errors, or die misalignments that add to the coin's historical and monetary significance. And each new confirmation sends ripples through the collector community, reigniting interest, re-examination, and renewed competition, creating waves of market activity that elevate the legend even further, and every auction, every verified example, and every documented sale contributes to the narrative, embedding the coin into the consciousness of collectors worldwide, making the 1978 1-cent penny a symbol of patience, knowledge, and discovery. Because it proves that ordinary-looking objects can carry extraordinary value when history, rarity, survival, and human fascination converge, and collectors understand that every detail matters, from the minutiae of Lincoln's hair to the faintest mark of a die clash, because these details authenticate the coin and confirm its story, transforming it from ordinary change into a treasure. And this story continues to resonate because the Lincoln Cent series connects generations, linking grandparents, parents, and children through a coin that has been part of daily life for decades, which makes discoveries feel personal rather than distant. And the legend of the 1978 penny is further magnified by the psychological allure of possibility, because anyone might theoretically possess one, and that hope drives endless searches, jar inspections, estate investigations, and online discussions, keeping the coin relevant and viral even decades after its production. And this dynamic is amplified by the coin market itself, because scarcity, verified condition, historical context, and competition combine to create extreme valuations that most people cannot imagine, yet are well documented by grading services and auction records, and even lower-grade examples benefit from the halo effect of the finest coins. As their connection to the legendary examples increases demand and interest across the entire year, and the coin's story is also a lesson in history, economics, and human behavior. Because the 1978 penny reflects a moment in time when production pressures, economic context, and minting practices combine to create conditions for rarity. And understanding this transforms how collectors view all coins, showing that value is often hidden in survival and circumstance, not merely in age or metal, and the 1978 penny proves that extraordinary treasures can exist in the most ordinary places, waiting for those patient enough to notice them. And this combination of historical significance, rarity, preservation, anomaly, and human desire ensures that the story of the 1978 1-cent USA coin continues to fascinate, inspire, and trend among collectors, enthusiasts, and casual observers alike, reminding everyone that even the smallest object can hold unimaginable value. And the fascination with the 1978 1-cent USA coin goes far beyond its metal composition or face value because it embodies decades of American history, technological change, economic fluctuation, and human obsession all rolled into one small, unassuming piece of copper, a coin that was handled daily by millions yet only a select few have survived in pristine condition. Untouched by circulation, unblemished by time, and perfectly struck, and what makes it so extraordinary is the combination of timing, survival, and minting anomaly that the year 1978 uniquely provides, because the Denver Mint was producing massive quantities of pennies under strict deadlines, and in that environment, tiny variations and subtle errors naturally occurred, slight die misalignments, minute planchet inconsistencies, striking pressure differences, faint doubling on letters or numbers, and occasional die clashes that left ghostly impressions of design elements where they should not be, and while the vast majority of these pennies entered everyday commerce and were quickly worn down, a microscopic fraction survived in uncirculated perfection, preserving details that are almost invisible to the naked eye, and collectors today understand that such survival is the true definition of rarity, because billions were minted, but only a handful retained the original copper luster, the perfect strike, and the subtle anomalies that make a coin truly exceptional, and it is precisely this combination of factors that has allowed some 1978 pennies to achieve valuations of $32 million, making them among the most coveted and legendary coins in modern American numismatics. And the story becomes even more compelling when you consider the cultural and historical context of 1978, a time when the United States was navigating economic uncertainty, rising inflation, and global challenges, yet everyday life still relied heavily on physical currency, meaning the penny was an essential part of commerce, and millions of Americans handled these coins daily without realizing that some would become extraordinary artifacts, representing a frozen moment in minting history that could alter lives decades later. And the Lincoln cent itself carries emotional significance that transcends mere value, because its portrait connects generations, reminding people of continuity, heritage, and the everyday lives of Americans over decades. And the 1978 penny, therefore, becomes not just a coin but a bridge between ordinary experience and extraordinary potential, a tangible link to the past that also holds the power to create wealth in the present, and collectors recognize this, which is why the market for such coins is so intense, because ownership is about more than metal, it is about prestige, history, and the rare privilege of holding something almost no one else can. And when the finest known examples appear at auction, the competition among elite collectors and investors can drive prices to astonishing heights, because the scarcity, perfection, and confirmed anomalies converge to create something nearly mythical, a coin that is simultaneously ordinary in appearance yet extraordinary in historical and financial significance. And the psychological appeal of such rarity cannot be overstated, because humans are naturally drawn to the idea that fortune could be hiding in plain sight, that something overlooked might hold unimaginable value, and that possibility fuels searches through old coin rolls, inherited collections, and forgotten jars, keeping the story alive across generations. And the 1978 penny also demonstrates the importance of professional authentication and grading, because without verification, even a perfect coin remains only a rumor. But once examined, certified, and encapsulated by top-tier grading services, the coin's rarity and condition are officially documented, providing collectors confidence that they are acquiring a true historical artifact, rather than mere speculation. And the tools available to modern experts, from precise scales measuring weight to imaging technology revealing microscopic anomalies, have only increased interest, because previously invisible features can now be confirmed, new varieties identified, and existing records re-examined, further elevating the coin's allure. And every new discovery, sale, or certification adds another chapter to the legend of the 1978 penny, reinforcing its status as one of the most compelling and valuable coins of its era. And while it is easy to underestimate a small copper cent, the story of the 1978 penny reminds us that size and appearance do not determine worth, and that careful observation, patience, and knowledge can transform an everyday object into a life-changing treasure. And this principle drives collector obsession, viral videos, articles, and discussions across social media, because the idea that a coin most people would discard could be worth tens of millions captures the imagination, blending history, finance, human desire, and hope into a narrative that refuses to fade. And the penny's value is further enhanced by its combination of anomalies and historical timing, because 1978 was late in the Lincoln cent copper era, meaning surviving red, uncirculated coins with minting errors are exceptionally rare. And collectors understand that every detail, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the lettering, the precise texture of the field, and the color of the copper, matters tremendously, because these factors determine whether a coin is ordinary or legendary. And when you combine perfect preservation with rare minting characteristics, the result is a coin that can shatter expectations, inspire obsession, and achieve valuations in the multi-million-dollar range, creating stories that are told and retold among collectors, investors, and numismatic enthusiasts, reinforcing the idea that treasure can exist anywhere, that history rewards survival, and that human curiosity drives the pursuit of extraordinary objects hidden in ordinary places. And this cycle continues as each generation discovers the story, spreads the fascination, and searches for the rarest examples, keeping the legend of the 1978 1-cent USA penny alive, relevant, and viral, demonstrating that even the most commonplace objects, when combined with rarity, survival, and historical significance, can become symbols of enormous value, human desire, and timeless intrigue. And if this deep exploration of the 1978 penny has made you reconsider the coins in your pocket or the jars in your home, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more unbelievable stories of everyday coins hiding extraordinary fortunes.